There are more troubles ahead for Rishi Sunak's new cabinet as he sent Rees-Mogg onto the backbenchers and turned him into an official anti-government rebel. Oh yes, ladies and gentlemen, here we go again. We have Rees-Mogg back on the backbenchers, which means that there are going to be troubles ahead for Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt. The idea is that when you've had Rees-Mogg outside the tent, he's good when it comes to debating in the House of Commons. He's good at raising the right questions, and that was the whole problem with even Theresa May and David Cameron. And I know that obviously back then during the David Cameron days, Rees-Mogg was still pretty new, but now he became more popular inside the Conservative tent, especially with the grassroots and even non-Conservative Tories like him. Some people don't like him, but that's fine. He has not been perfect as a Conservative, obviously, but because he had to side with the government in the past. This time, it's actually about all the economic policies and fiscal policies. One of them is the capital gains tax. They basically are going to be raising all these taxes at the same time, printing money, at the same time, not really cutting. And my fear is when they're going to be cutting the government spending, instead of focusing on government waste, they might actually do a George Osborne and hit the frontline public services, which will be quite chaotic for the country. Now, one of the issues with this is that, of course, the capital gain tax the whole thing is just idiotic. They're going after areas that they shouldn't. And you could actually get the rich and the corporations to pay their fair share in tax. Go after them, make sure they're not really doing tax evasion and all that illegally. Fine. But Rees-Mogg said that capital gain tax is an inefficient tax where people simply delay transactions when it is too high. Increasing it is therefore economically inefficient and leads to the poor allocation of capital. This weakens economic growth. There will be a risk to the property market already affected by rising interest rates of any change to the capital gain tax, as landlords may seek to leave the market. This is all classic economic 101, where people on the socialist side don't understand economics, so they're just looking at a black and white blanket policy. For example, they just read the concept of governments raise taxes. So they say on paper, so if the rich hold all the wealth, so that means wealth is limited resource, right? Which is not, by the way. And they say, okay, so if we just tax them all, then we'll have enough funding. That's a whole different argument when it comes to capital gain tax, obviously. We're just talking about the basic concept. But that makes no sense, because if it was as easy as that, socialist countries, capitalist countries, social democratic countries would have all done the same thing, and it would have always worked. It doesn't. Now, this argument is not to say that, leave the rich alone or let the corporations do whatever they want. No, absolutely not. There's definitely nuance in this. There's definitely balance in this. You don't really tax the working classes and even the middle classes too much. That's just also counterproductive. But at the same time, if you're going to really go after corporations or the rich, maybe it's best to cut the ties between big government and big business. Maybe it's best to stop that dodgy relationship between corporations and politicians. Maybe it's best to stop this big lobby concept that corporations get away with everything. And the rich can actually have some leverage. As I always say, this small corner shop off license doesn't have that much power compared to Sainsbury's or Tesco if you raise taxes. Because Sainsbury's and Tesco can afford expensive lawyers and accountants. They will always find a loophole. So raising these taxes will still hit smaller businesses. And again, when it comes to capital gain tax, it's a whole different argument anyway. You've got the property market to deal with, and you're already destroying that. So thanks for that, guys. And you're trying to make things even worse. But we are where we are. Rees-Mogg is going to be quite interesting over the next year or so until the next election. So Jeremy Hunt, be prepared for the Mogg. We're going to come back in half an hour. Subscribe to the channel. I'm Tousi, and we are the media.